Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now.
So Khamzat Chimaev, I'm pretty sure everybody knows who Khamzat Chimaev is. Everybody's seen Khamzat Chimaev fight. And some people didn't even know who Khamzat Chimaev was before the UFC, and that's fine. That's fine. You know what I mean? Not many people did, but he had a lot of hype coming in. He was the next coming. He was going to take over where Khabib left off. And right now, it doesn't seem like he's reached. You know what I mean? There's been more guys, you know, in recent memory that have reached the title and won the title faster than Khamzat. Khamzat hasn't even fought for the title yet, right?
Yeah. How long's he been signed now?
His first fight with the UFC was 2020 July.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he had 2024 coming up.
He had that crazy run where he hit a bunch of quick finishes in 2020.
Yes.
It was like 66 days, I think. He had 3 fights.
He broke the record for the quickest turnaround between UFC wins, 10 days. And he got a performance of the night on in both fights. Right?
I remember all of that.
So why do you think he's not had a title shot yet?
Well, the first thing was he never could decide on like which weight division he was at. Like he was fighting at welterweight, and then he'll go fight at middleweight, and then when he did fight at welterweight, when he was supposed to fight,
he misses weight a lot.
He was supposed to fight Nate Diaz. Remember that was set up. Remember that was set up for the pay-per-view.
And they had to do the shuffle.
Big shuffle.
And he missed weight by like
fights.
more than 10 pounds, right? And then all that wackiness happened, and then next thing you know, he's fighting 180. He's fighting Kevin Holland, right? Which was, I think he would have done the same thing to Nate Diaz, though.
I love Nate,
I'm glad we didn't see that.
You just didn't, no one ever
I'm
wants
glad
to see
we
that
saw
happen
Nate
to
Diaz
Nate.
versus Tony Ferguson instead.
Yeah.
That was much better.
Good memory.
You know, Nate. Everybody's hanging on to the Nate Diaz that beat Conor McGregor. That guy is gone. That
but
was
attitude-wise,
well, you know, attitude could only take you so far. You know, I mean, once you get into the cage, look at when Nick Diaz last fought. Did you see that?
That was
his attitude was there. He's just like, oh, Diaz, brother, and next thing you know, he's like he was eating shots. Like, it just was looking bad.
The thing that's good about him is out of, I think, a lot of the other aging fighters, he's still kind of kept his kind of icon kind of, you know,
he was out for so long though. Was that whole time he was out because he got banned for weed?
Yeah.
How hard would that be?
It was just he had to pay a fine, right? He didn't want to pay the fine.
Oh damn.
But anyways, let's go back to Khamzat. Now Khamzat, you know what I mean, he's I think he's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight wins, 7-0 in the UFC. His last win was against Kamaru Usman, who was a welterweight, fighting him at middleweight.
Yeah.
Before that, he fought Kevin Holland.
Short notice.
On short notice. Before that, he fought Gilbert Burns in a fight that was
such a good fight.
And then he beat
I'd love a rematch on that.
Jing Liang. He beat him, and then he beat Mearshard, and then Reese McKee. Now, should he have been a champion already? Do you think?
No.
Well, if he should have been, he probably would have been.
If from the hype that we had from that run, you know what I mean, that run, should he have been champion already, do you think?
I mean, maybe without all the hiccups that he had to deal with, right? He had like a long stretch of COVID at one point, I think in 2021.
He almost retired from it, right?
Yeah. And then Dana White was like, no, you're not fucking doing that.
My money.
Yeah, exactly. No. And then the big weight miss. So maybe if those things weren't in the picture, then maybe he would be champion by now. But I don't know.
You got to pick a weight class.
If it's not your time, it's not your time.
Yeah.
And you're right. That I forgot about all the COVID stuff. And he did retire. He wrote something about like
he wrote a long post about how he was done and all this stuff.
That's right.
I think he had long COVID or something.
Yeah. And then he
did you study before we came here, Kendall? I feel like
no,
what are you talking about studying? What are you talking about studying?
Research. When she pulled out second. I was like, damn, I didn't even
I'm
know
just
that.
a fan. What
No,
can
no,
I
I
but
love that.
she said something that was common knowledge. Like if you watch the sport, you know that happened, right?
I watched
But
this
anyways,
sport. I didn't know that happened.
well, that's your.
That's why I was like, damn, Daniel.
I'm just like at home with
Well,
my books.
yes.
Just like,
because he's in the news all the time, right? He's in the news all the time. But yeah, like to me, like the Usman, that was a close fight on short notice. Usman did really well against Khamzat. I think Khamzat at 185, he might not be that good. He might be good enough to be like a top 10 fighter, but is he good enough to become the champion at 185? We saw him fight Kamaru Usman, who's a welterweight at 185. Before that, he was a kidsweight fight against Kevin Holland, who's not, who's a welterweight. And then Gilbert Burns at welterweight as well.
But I think always like maybe he could beat Leon Edwards. You know what I mean? Like it's.
But that's welterweight.
Welterweight.
He fights at middleweight because he missed weight, and then the
Right.
doctors told him like you can't cut the welterweight.
Anymore.
Welterweight. I think he becomes a champion and becomes a legend if he can go to welterweight and stay there. He beats everybody and just doubles up, just boom, 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 and then he goes up to middleweight. I think that's what they planned on doing with Khamzat in the beginning. Like when Dana White saw him and said, "Okay, we have a good grasp of this market for this guy. We're gonna build him up, and he's gonna go fight at welterweight, win the title, and then go up to middleweight and do a super fight."
Sounds like he needs to get rid of his nutritionist.
Well, but making weight is part of the job, right? Like,
Yeah, 100%.
So if you can't make,
so they're forcing him to middleweight, and then he was gonna fight. I think it was Paulo Costa. Right? And then Paulo Costa pulls out. Kamaru Usman jumps in. To me, like he's championship level at welterweight. In my mind, without a doubt. But at middleweight, I don't think so. I think he needs to prove himself.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Do we know what he walks around at as well?
He's pretty big.
Yeah.
Like he's not like Alex Pereira big, but he's pretty big.
Right.
For himself, yeah.
I think it's still a cut for him to get to middle, right? So for him to get to welter is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And he had a long stretch where he didn't fight because he couldn't fight in the US, I think. And they were just.
Was there a visa issue too?
Yeah, I think so. And then that's why he fought in Abu Dhabi. But it says here that he fought in the US a few times. So I don't think it's a problem anymore. But it probably was. Sometimes visas is the reason why people have to pull out.
Do you feel like the hype has kind of like died for him now?
Yeah,
I thought the hype kind of died for him when because that Burns fight was really
so close, right? I kind of gave it the other way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like that was when we started to see kind of the hype and like die down.
Yeah, when you realize someone can be beaten.
Yeah, and then there was all the other stuff. I remember watching Leach when I was a kid and everything. So him just like picking Leach up and it was like godly, and I was like, Leach, right?
Yeah.
So
Leach just got.
Do you think maybe the Burns fight got into his head when he's like, that was really close to call?
Possibly, and
maybe
the damage he probably took from the Burns fight too.
Had he ever taken any kind of damage like that?
No.
No, there was some crazy record of like he'd barely been struck. Yeah.
And you know who beat that record? Jalton Almeida beat that record now, and he's at heavyweight. That's pretty insane.
That's insane.
Like he hasn't gotten hit at heavyweight. You know what I mean?
Can you imagine like getting in all those fights and just like no damage?
Yeah, just right back
Just
to
walking
training.
out like ready to go.
You start to believe your own hype.
Yeah.
You start to believe, but the thing is, you do have to believe your own hype. If you want to be at that level, and if you want to,
could you see him beating Strickland?
Sean Strickland?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see him, but I don't think Strickland will be the champion when.
Yeah, but we didn't see Strickland beating Adesanya.
Yeah, no one saw that coming.
You never know,
Anything's
right?
possible.
Yeah.
There's always that wild card.
It's like MMA maths. It just doesn't make sense.
I think at middleweight he doesn't have that strength advantage that he has at welterweight.
The thing is we haven't gotten to see that yet, right?
Yeah.
We've gotten to see him fight Kamaru Usman, but Kamaru Usman is a welterweight.
Yeah.
So until we actually see him fight an actual middleweight, maybe if he does an outstanding performance there, the hype will go back up. Right?
I think that's what he needs.
But how do we know?
But he needs to fight somebody.
Yeah.
But again, when he's struggled with two, obviously, Burns and Usman are fucking the top welterweights and everything, but still when he's struggling with that weight class, the top guys, you'd think, okay, well, how is he going to do with the top in a bigger, stronger class?
Yeah, he just
to wait
so
and
basically
see.
you're saying that he needs to prove himself.
Yeah.
Is he
I
booked
think
to
so.
fight?
I don't think so. Well, okay. Oh, that leads to what I wanted to talk about as well. Is now he's online chirping at Adesanya, like he wants to fight Adesanya because Strickland is fighting Duplessis, right?
Yeah.
And so that means the title is wrapped up. Like Khamzat could wait, or Khamzat could fight somebody, and he's picking Adesanya as his target. What do you think of that fight, Jada?
Is Israel actually going to be out until like 20?
No.
Okay. Oh, depends. Like I feel like sometimes I'm certain on like what an outcome will be, and then I just get proven wrong. But I'd always like to see Israel Adesanya come away with the win. No,
come on.
But
I'm trying to do the dancing around the anthem. You come on, let's go, let it go.
No, I think Izzy could beat him.
Of course, Izzy could beat him.
Just
right?
depends like on who implements their game plan better.
I think the Izzy that shows up would beat him.
Yeah. You do that fence, take down defense along the fence, right? That's what he needs to do.
Yeah.
And then force Khamzat into striking.
Yeah, and just keeping his distance, using that.
But he's so good at that, right? He's so good at that. But the thing is, like, Khamzat, if he gets a hold of you, though, you don't know.
Yeah,
you don't know if you're not ready for those
deep
positions.
waters.
You guys know better than me, but I'm just saying, like, what do you think of like Khamzat going at Adesanya rather than going at the winner of the title?
Yeah, I would say because Izzy has just said that he wanted to take a break. Why are guys going after him at all? Right?
Well, maybe they feel like that's how they can prove that they're ready for the next title shot.
Yeah, and I get that, but like the guy was doing title fights, whether he was like defending or going for it and everything, like for how many of the last fights that he's done?
Oh, insane, like a record.
Yeah, it's some record of it. It was always a title fight. Like let the man rest.
Yeah, maybe
go after some.
Maybe they feel like he's in a bit of a vulnerable place at the moment. I mean, when that happens to you, it does something. So now they're like, oh, he'll be beatable now because he's not going to be like in that confident mindset that he's always been in, like throughout all these years.
Mindset.
Yeah. So maybe they're just trying to kick a man while he's down.
I mean.
You need to do that.
Yeah,
that's a sport.
You need to like in fighting, right? When you get up to that level and it's all like strategy, right? Like, cause why? You can lose one fight, but the next fight gets you back right into it. That's why it becomes like a carousel in the top 15 because there's so many guys that are good that will lose one or two and then they beat somebody and they're back up there in the carousel.
Also, I think sometimes you just have to talk shit to stay relevant.
Oh, that's also true because
social media is super important.
MMA media is all about
pride for that.
Yeah, MMA media is all about just like social media posts or Twitter or what is it? Their YouTube channel or what did they say on there? That's all MMA media.
Yeah, and if enough people get behind it, maybe it puts pressure on the other person. Like they have to.
Or
or on
the UFC.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what Khamzat wants. He wants some hype build around Adesanya because he knows Adesanya stylistically out of all the matchups right there, like between like the three, Duplessis and Strickland and Adesanya. I think he believes that Adesanya is probably the best for him.
Yeah,
he probably feels that.
And he's talking about he's going to be away for a while and stepping away. And he just saw him perform against Strickland the way he did. He's just like, oh, maybe he's not in it anymore. Maybe the love is lost. And then you go after that guy and beat him because he's everybody's considered him the best middleweight of all time, even past Anderson Silva, which blows my mind.
Yeah,
and like you don't know about MMA in that era, like. Anderson Silva did things nobody will ever do again. Like people don't understand. But anyways, and I love Adesanya and all that, right? But I'm just saying, he was in the Matrix. Anderson Silva. Go back and watch him if you're too young. Like there's kids like Shay, 14-year-old kids that are doing MMA, but they had no idea. I don't know if Shay knows who Anderson Silva is.
I remember Anderson Silva knocking out Forrest Griffin with a jab going backwards.
That's what I'm saying, like Matrix stuff.
Going like, up a weight class.
And it was just like a paw. Like
it was a paw, It made me so sad.
Like it was just swatting flies away. But so anyways, so Adesanya, he gets the credit for being one of the greatest of all time at middleweight, one of the greatest strikers of all time as well. Like you got to give him that credit. Yeah. But I think Khamzat's looking at him as like maybe there's like a lot of vulnerabilities there. Not just in the fighting, but maybe in the mental and the preparation and all that, right? And that's what Khamzat's doing. At that level, you have to think like that.
Yeah, of course.